Hello, welcome to a very special episode of the Force Commander's Guide to Purging Nurgle. I'm Jade Star, joined as always by my favorite friend, Olesh.
Currently suffering from Nurgle's rot.
Yeah, be careful out there, folks. That still exists, still going around. And we are doing our much-delayed class video. I've pulled up a old save file just so that I have soldiers that are all level 9, so you can see kind of what a full build-out looks like. So we're just going to dive right in and start with an Interceptor, and say the very first thing you should always do, especially if they don't start with it, is get teleport on the left side, get the range increase, and from there work to support fire, enduring reflexes, and the support fire damage boosts, giving you a really easy way to close distance and then get free damage output without spending AP.
It's 10 damage a turn. There is nothing more valuable than that.
Yeah. When you first look at it, it's kind of maybe counterintuitive because it's an Interceptor, it's a melee class. You probably are thinking top right for all the crits and Ruthless Precision. And you're absolutely right, Ruthless Precision is absolutely something you should get, but I would say go bottom left first every time.
Yeah. Ruthless Precision is more valuable as you get more bonuses to crit for war gear, weapons, all of that stuff. Whereas support fire is immediately good. It stays good throughout the rest of the game, and it doesn't rely on anything other than you reloading.
Yeah, that's a very good point, that Ruthless Precision is kind of a mid or late game thing when you have a high crit chance to get more value out of it.
Yeah.
Once you've gotten these two corners, you can kind of go wherever you want, but you don't have a lot of skill points left at this point. This pick has swap allies, which you gotta keep in mind to get some use out of. You can make good use of it if you can keep it in mind and figure out who you want to pull to where your Interceptor is and so forth.
Yeah.
Teleport Strike, pretty useful. It uses more willpower, but you might be able to get that extra little bit of damage on the teleport in that you need to secure a kill with the AP you have.
You can hit multiple targets.
It can be nice, but it's also just willpower intensive. But both of these skills are really just a bridge to get to teleport boost. Just get a 50% chance to get your AP back every time you teleport.
Yeah.
Your Interceptor teleports a lot. You want your willpower, or not your willpower, your AP back.
Yeah. I mean, free teleports half the time, more with focus is really good. If you have more skill points, Pockets is right there. You know, extra war gear, especially on an Interceptor or any of your other damage dealers. You know, more crit damage, more crit chance. You know, really good. You're paying a pretty steep tax in terms of it costs you 4 skill points to take that, but it's worth it if you have the bonus ones.
Yeah. A devoted practitioner Interceptor can take this build and then with your 3 extra skill points get to Pockets.
Yeah.
The parts of the skill tree we didn't discuss is up top in the middle is the comedy silencer option.
Yeah. I really want to argue for it, but you could do a weird silencer plus support fire build with Interceptors and it'd be extremely funny, but there aren't that many good silencers. And it's contingent on actually getting good silencers. There are better things to do with your time, but if you want to do it, it's really funny.
Yeah. And lastly, down in the bottom right, we have Cleansing Strike and associated skills. It's nice to be able to have a source of purge, but with the bottom left, top right skill build being so tight, giving up teleport boost or pockets to get purge on a melee strike is a very expensive ask.
Yeah, maybe if you were grinding up other Grey Knights and shoving them into your Interceptor, you might have the skill points for this. But there are better sources of purge.
Yeah. So that's just real quick. Our Interceptor, bottom left, top right, and then maybe boost, maybe pockets. But at that point, you've really got limited options.
Whatever you've got the skill points for.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to go take a look at a Justicar. We've talked a lot about this in the LP, but the first thing you do is honor the chapter. Every time, first thing.
Wave the flag is so good. And then the second thing...
Get the upgrade.
Yeah. The second thing
is Crushing Charge.
Yeah.
1 AP. Or not 1 AP, 1 skill point. Just off the path. Grab it. It doesn't read as if it's going to be hugely, powerful. But being able to get through early game Overwatch from cultists, or to smash through cover, or to body check somebody off the map, actually, it's really great.
And you can also just think of it to spend 1 AP to move twice as far.
That's true. Yep.
You're never really gonna go further than the 1 point in Crushing Charge, though.
No. I've said a lot that prior to changes, stun was a big deal for executes, and then Crushing Charge, being able to do 2 stuns, maybe hit multiple enemies next to each other. Yep. Those days are kind of gone. Yeah. But if you want to try it out, give it a go. Maybe it'll still work. I wouldn't recommend it on harder difficulties where the stun meter is higher.
Yeah. On easier difficulties, you're going to definitely get more mileage out of that.
Yeah.
Next up is probably Hammerhand.
Yeah. Once you've gotten your utility out of the way, it's time to actually make your Justicar dangerous. So Hammerhand for the forced crit, if you need it to just like disable some of these weapons, harvest seeds, do something, Hammerhand's a great move.
I could even see an argument for just taking Hammerhand earlier. Take Hammerhand and then go for Crushing Charge.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But that's personal preference. The Warp Charge on it is kind of whatever, but really you're going through that.
Yep. And we're going to head for Ruthless Precision. Your Justicar is going to be in melee a lot. Getting AP back from crits is great. We're going to say this a lot. Anything that gets you AP back for what your character is doing, like majority of the time, always is just an immediate like slam pick. Always go for it.
Anything that lets you spend more AP to do things to kill the enemy is good.
Yeah. So you go through Hammerhand. We're enhancing Force Strike along the way, which is kind of nice. This actually now has Armor Break, and they changed how Armor Break was between when I last played this save and now, so Armor Break's actually kind of nice. There might be a point or something, like if, say, maybe he didn't have Terminator armor, I would go for the Armor Break, but you're going here for Ruthless Precision.
Yeah. In general, I'm going to argue, unless you specifically have a reason not to want Terminator armor, anybody who can take Terminator armor probably should.
Yeah.
It's 1 skill point for anybody who can take it. It's worth it.
Alright, and then once you've got Crushing Charge and Ruthless Precision, you don't have too many skill points. You really have 2 choices of where to go. For me, I kind of round out and I go to the right to pick up the ranged skills over here, getting you crit chance on your gun, crit damage on your gun. The ability to equip a Psy Cannon, if you have Terminator armor, is actually really fun and good. And just a general purpose rapid reload.
Yeah, rapid reload is another... saves you an AP sometimes.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's nice. This isn't critical. You don't need to take the Psy Cannon. It's kind of fun, though. Don't if you don't have Terminator armor, but like I always said, if you can get Terminator, you probably should. With about 6 skill points, this is a pretty solid way to spend those 6. Another good way of spending those is to go up top left to enhance melee and go for Rend the Unclean. It's really good for dealing with clusters of enemies. If you get surrounded by poxwalkers, one of the early game uses I used to get a lot of value out of it was the rituals with the preacher surrounded by the eyeballs. Just walk into the middle of them and hit all of them multiple times.
Yeah, the opportunity to do AoE damage is really efficient usually. If you can hit 3 or more targets with Rend the Unclean, you probably should.
Yeah. So my suggestion, or my opinion, would be, pick one or the other. If you're going to go heavy melee with your Justicar, go up and get Rend. If you're going to be balanced between melee and ranged, go over here for extra ranged damage, extra Cybolt damage and reload. With, 5, you could, in theory, go up here to get Fortress if you wanted to. Get extra Aegeus and the ability to transfer armor.
You can get use out of it, but if you think you want Fortress, then you probably know that you want Fortress. Generally, I won't take it because your Justicars, you want them killing stuff. But I guess you could use it to save somebody else from a bunch of damage.
Yeah, a panic button sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Likewise, the Provoke's interesting. It's not bad, but it just costs too much. You've got more use for your skill points.
Yeah, Provoke itself, just without anything else, is 2 willpower. Might as well wave the flag at somebody.
Yeah.
And Crazed was a good, idea or thought, but it's only a 50-50 chance that it actually works the way you really want it to, where it says afflicted targets will randomly attack their allies. That's only a chance.
Yeah, it's not reliable. Usually you actually would want them targeting the person who provoked them.
Yeah.
Because that's predictable.
Yeah.
And then Enduring Reflexes is really nice to have, but it's too expensive. You can't fit it.
It is out of the way, unfortunately. Very far out of the way. If Enduring Reflexes had been down here by charge, it would be great, but it might make the Justicars a bit too strong.
Yeah.
But to go 2, 3, 4 just for Enduring Reflexes is a really big ask.
Yeah, if you have spare skill points, you're better off going for, rounding out the ranged or getting your melee AoE.
Yeah, whichever one of these two you didn't take first. Yeah. Alright. I think that is our Justicar.
Durant.
Right. Purgator, which you can do many, many ways. As we've seen throughout the LP, I tend to favor Psy Cannons, so my immediate suggestions is to go left and get the ammo, because, good lord, Psy Cannons at 2 ammo is a rough time. And then it immediately dips you into Psionic Onslaught improvements, although you're not taking that for the extra damage to Psionic Onslaught, you're taking that to get to Rapid Reload, so that you don't have to deal with the shortcomings or the small ammo magazines of Psy Cannons.
Yeah, having less ammo on your Psy Cannons is not really an issue once you have these upgrades. And Psy Cannons are just good base weapons. You can upgrade Psychic Onslaught if you want. You can take Return Fire relatively early on if you want. Return Fire is actually pretty good. It's bad in that you don't want to be shot at, but having a chance to shoot back for free anytime somebody shoots at you is not bad. Generally speaking, you have other things you want to spend skill points on, though.
Right.
But if you have a bonus skill point somewhere, put it in Return Fire.
Yeah, definitely. I would actually want to do a little bit of science on that, because I know, like, when you take Overwatch out of, like, full cover, your character actually stands out there. When you get shot at on Overwatch, you don't get cover or anything. So I'm curious if, like, the cultist steps out to shoot you, tags you, and do you step out to shoot them? Do they not get their cover or anything? Like, do they not get any mitigating factors from this return fire?
I'd be interested to test.
Yeah, that would actually be something that would help me evaluate how useful it is or make it stronger.
If you're going Psy Cannon,
Yeah.
or Silencer rather,
yeah.
Return Fire is probably a little bit more valuable.
More ammo?
More ammo. You ignore cover, partial cover when you're shooting at people with the upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
So you can kind of sit in cover, maybe with some other things going on, and bait people to shoot at you, and then you can return fire. It's not efficient, but you can get use out of it.
Right. Yeah.
In general, Jade prefers the Psy Cannons over Silencers.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Not to say that this is a bad thing. If you find value in Silencers, absolutely go up here into the top left and grab all of these skills.
Yeah, the support fire is almost not worth it.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. Yeah, without the upgrades that the Interceptor gets, it's very strange that the Purgator is just worse at support fire.
It's really fun because if you want to go support fire with Silencers, go with the Interceptor.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, rapid reload aside, the next place to go is you have choices. I really like going top right for grenade pockets.
Yeah.
And the grenade upgrades.
It's hard to ignore the value of being able to carry like 2 or 3 extra grenades, or just carry like an extra set. Like, so if you use your grenade slot for grenades, and then you use your general war gear slot for grenades, all of these upgrades apply to each slot of grenades. So that's 4 extra grenades.
That is a lot of grenades. They have more area. You can stack it with grenade armor to get even more grenade uses, or more damage or area out of them. It's great. This is optional, but like any other pockets, it is good value.
Yeah. It also goes through Sanctified Kill Zone, which is a very nice skill on its own.
If you're focusing a single big target, Sanctified Kill Zone can be very valuable. Spend an AP and some willpower, and then shoot it a whole bunch with some other people.
Yeah.
And that damage adds up.
It can also be useful against if you can get multiple smaller enemies too. While you might not be piling like multiple hits on each thing, the smaller cultists, you might have like breakpoints. If you're not killing them with one hit, maybe this will make you kill them in one hit.
Yeah, because it affects an area, you can actually get surprising value out of it.
Yeah. And it
Enduring
also
reflexes
leads to enduring reflexes, yeah.
not really good for rapid reload unless you're using arcane weapons to dump all of your ammo or using a flamethrower. But it's there, you might as well have it, and it works really well with down
Mental
the astral
focus.
aim tree for mental focus. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Justicar's Interceptors have the crits give you an AP on melee crit. Purgators have the same thing for ranged crit.
your Purgator is mostly going to be shooting. Having a chance to get AP back on shooting is just fantastic.
Yeah. And it goes
Can't
through,
emphasize this enough.
Yeah. And it goes through Astral Aim, which is what our Vindicare essentially does constantly. It's precision targeting on a ranged attack. Now, it costs our Purgator extra willpower, but we've shown the value of precision targeting. Sometimes just figuratively and literally disarming an enemy is just makes every encounter that much easier. Just so nice.
Yeah, and being able to do that at range is pretty nice. And then, you get +1 crit damage out of it.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be putting more crit damage on your Purgator anyways, so...
Yeah. And that leaves us the two squares we haven't touched on. Up here you have Emperor's Light for Afflict Blinded, and, Purge. So it's a source of Purge, which is okay.
It's not common. You have to go out of your way to find sources of Purge, usually.
Yeah.
Blinded only being -2 damage is not as bad as it sounds, because damage numbers in this game are already pretty low.
Right.
And you stack Blinded with being in cover, being at, long range. Suddenly there are a lot of enemies, especially early on, who just can't damage you.
Yeah, the standard bolter, both used by Grey Knights and the Death Guard, are 4 damage. Subtract 2 from Blinded, subtract 1 from medium range, subtract 1 from partial damage, or partial cover, and suddenly that bolter isn't doing anything.
Yeah, if you really wanted to take advantage of it, you definitely want Return Fire, Emperor's Light, put yourself in cover sort of near the enemy, and just let them chip away at you while you shoot them back.
Yeah.
You'd also want Enduring Reflexes and some more sources of focus. But you can do that. Usually it's better to, shoot them before they get to shoot at you. But it's fun. I like Return Fire every time it shows up, whether it's in this or in XCOM.
Alright, yeah. On bottom right, we have Arcane Weapons. You gotta go through Warp Charge for Sanctified Killzone, which is... okay. Armor Break 3 isn't terrible, actually. That's not bad.
I already posted in the thread about Arcane Weapons.
Yeah.
You can get value out of it. You have to work really hard. It's really funny if you do, because you could just plant +11 damage on somebody else. But in reality, that's a victory lap. If you can set that up, you could have won more straightforward, easier ways.
It's a nice idea that maybe if your Purgator isn't in the right place at the right time to make the shots themselves, that they can help the squad, from long range or, in some other utility way.
If you recruit a high-level Purgator late in the game who has arcane weapons, you might try it out.
Yeah.
But I would never intentionally build a Purgator to do this.
Same. So there's options. You can really kind of pick anywhere you want to go on their skill map, and you'll find something useful there.
Yeah, if you have extra skill points, rounding out the stuff that you already have makes sense. Or, go for Emperor's Light. Blinded is not bad. It just, generally speaking, you have other things you want to do. You want to shoot the enemy.
Like Sanctified Killzone just makes them die faster, or Astral Aim just picks them apart. There's a lot of good skills, and then there's a lot of kind of average skills, and you just don't have the picks to get everything.
Unless you throw people into the wood chipper.
Yeah, right. Lastly, we have our Apothecary. These Apothecary builds are a little bit old and outdated, because this is a very old save file from before the changes. So I'll get to that when we get there, but the first thing you want to do with your Apothecary is go to the right. Upgrade your heal. Make it more willpower efficient. At the start of the game, it's, 2 willpower for 5 HP, and that's kind of rough at the early game.
You don't have a whole lot of willpower.
Yeah.
It works well enough. Fully upgraded, it's 2 willpower for 9 heal. It's almost twice as good.
Yeah.
The warp charge is really not worth it.
That's kind of an emergency situation thing. It does give the target an AP.
Yeah, they made it more appealing by being a wave the flag at home. Like it's there if you got the spare willpower and you need to do 14 healing, you might as well get the AP out of it. But
really, the warp charge is there just to kind of bridge you to skull pockets.
Skull pockets are good. Anything that lets you spend your pockets on more things is really good.
Especially early on in the game, your Apothecary is probably carrying your Medicae Servo Skull. This lets you put that in its own dedicated slot, so then you can choose war gear of your choice. You can carry grenades or anything else you have with you, and then you can carry lots of extra skulls. Yeah,
more uses of the Servo Skull, which is early on your only source of Purify.
Yeah. Up here though is kind of a trap thing. It's not really related to everything. So the Apothecarian Skull lets you use your Biomancy on targets at any range. Normally you have to be adjacent. Your Biomancy is essentially buff magic, like give your knights extra abilities. And it's kind of nice to be able to do that at range, but this isn't a skill. This is a war gear slot. This is something you have to spend your equipment space on to use. And that's a pretty steep price.
Yeah, the alternatives that you'd be spending on would be like 35% more melee crit, or +4 crit damage.
Or the Sancting Shard
Yeah,
focus.
more focus. More likely that your auto abilities will trigger.
Right.
So, never take it. If you're going to use Biomancy, you'll know if you really want it, but you don't.
Yeah. Once you have
once you have those, you're right next to Ruthless Precision.
So it is, after you get that, that's like kind of my essential Apothecary things. That makes you heal better. It gives you skulls for healing or other things that you might use skulls for, because there are utility skulls as well. And then you can really kind of go wherever you feel like. But I think Olesh is right that bottom right is probably the next best thing, because 2 points down and you have Ruthless Precision. We love Ruthless Precision.
I mean, you get the AP back. You get your AP back. You're also, like, the bleed is less bad than it used to be. Yeah. If you're gonna, be attacking with your Apothecary. Narthesiums are not good melee weapons, but, getting 3 bleed every hit is actually not that awful. Extracting seeds for free can free up the need to bring the other Servo Skull to snipe them at range.
Yeah, that's true.
And then ultimately, like, once you have your Servo Skulls and your Medicae upgrades, you could pretty much do whatever. So Ruthless Precision is right there. It's not as valuable as it is on like a Justicar,
right,
or
Interceptor,
but it's there, and your alternatives are not super great.
Yeah. If you have your crit chance, though, it's great. And right next to it is +3 crit damage. That means like a Narthesium crit is double damage.
Yeah. I mean, this helps make Narthesiums more worth, like, actually punching with instead of just shooting.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly valid to never actually do melee attacks, except, if you want to inflict bleed.
Right.
But Ruthless Precision makes it more appealing. And it's almost free. It's only 2 points from stuff that you're already taking.
Yeah. I will say that this is probably not my exact build that I'm going to go with in the LP. I tend to bring Seed Snatcher Skulls all the time, every time, so Extract Seed maybe is less necessary, and that point might have been better spent off on crit damage.
Yeah. But for the rest of Apothecary, it basically is whatever you think you might want to use.
Yeah.
Terminator armor is always nice to have. We talked a little bit more up at the top. You have the bleed tree, which you can't stack bleed on bosses, but you could sort of use this as like cut rate grenades. And you could also maybe pair it with the bottom tree, where you can immobilize targets. Emperor's Judgment lets you hobble or straight up immobilize on a warp charge, so you could theoretically bleed a group of enemies, immobilize them, and then just walk away. That might work.
And usually that is going to be probably a good alternative to the build I have on this guy, where I've gone all for the Biomancies. Just instead of doing full left side, do top and bottom, and I think that's not a bad plan. It adds a lot of utility to your Apothecary to control the battlefield. It's not going to do damage, or it's not going to do like anything instantaneously, but it's going to help you get out of tough spots.
Yeah, the biomancies, I mean, you have warp speed, which I really like because 2 movement speed doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it's 40% more speed. It's going to, especially if you have to cover a lot of ground, it's going to save you an AP here or there. And it lasts a couple of turns, and, also gives you crit damage on melee attacks. It's not awful. The main thing restricting biomancies is the need to move up to the target to use it. And that's bad. It just makes biomancies hard to take advantage of. The other options, and this is an older build when stun builds were better, is Iron Fist, Iron Arm Biomancy, which, 2 more stun on melee attacks. So 1 use of that, 3 willpower, 1 AP is for the specified target, up to 12 more stun in 2 turns. That could really be good, or it could not actually matter. But the real reason to go that direction is maybe if you really want to use biomancies, Surgical Adept lets you refund the use of AP to cast biomancies.
Yeah. This is an older build, but even still, even with the current things, going from just a standard sword hit being 1 stun to Iron Biomancy is now a 3 stun hit. You could probably very quickly set up executes with that. Yeah. If you're going to be doing an execution build, you'll want to lean into this sort of thing. If you're not going to be trying to do that, you're not going to get any value out of Iron Biomancy. Yeah.
Now, what you might get some value out of is down in the bottom corner, we have Endurance Biomancy. This is a source of Purify that doesn't require you to spend Servo Skull. It's only 1 willpower.
And I will gladly pay 1 willpower every time one of my knights gets, plagued, because that just ticks damage over and over, and you either have to, spend more willpower to just straight heal it through battlefield medicine, or you have to spend a skull to purify it.
Yeah, it also gives resistance for a couple of turns, but
that's
the rest of the upgrades, making it last longer, is fine. Giving it more resistance is fine, but you usually don't have the skill points.
Yeah.
Sympathetic Biomancy is actually really interesting, because if you were going to be really using Biomancy, you'd want to lean into this and then some additional focus.
Yeah.
Because putting Biomancy on another target and yourself for the same action is twice as good.
I can see that if you I think it would be really intensive, and I'd have to count it out. But if you didn't take Skull Pockets, and oof, that's a hard ask. But if you didn't go over here to take Ruthless Precision, which, oof, again, hard ask, fully doing out all the Biomancies, so that you have Surgical Adept and Sympathetic and a full upgraded Iron Arm, you could, in theory, then, get your focus up and put Iron Arm on your Interceptor, your Justicar, or your Paladin, or whatever, and have them not doing, at least 3 stun a hit, and then also having your Apothecary up there doing 3 stun a hit, assuming you get lucky with Sympathetic Biomancy. That is a lot of stun.
See, the real thing with Biomancy is I would like Biomancy more if it wasn't 1 range, and if it didn't have attacks to use it at range.
Yeah.
If you actually decide that you want to use Biomancy, you're taking Apothecary and Skull, and you're just dealing with it. Your Apothecary is... You may not even be focusing on anything else other than just Biomancies, taking rushing directly to the Apothecary and Skull, and just doing... The problem is that none of the buffs are really good enough to justify dedicating an entire character slot to that.
Yeah.
Warp speed for 2 crit and 2 more movement per AP is good, but it's not 1 AP and 2 willpower good. Even if you put it on your Apothecary as well through the Sympathetic Biomancy, even if you get the refund, you're probably better off shooting. The actual value that you get out of this, outside of specific situations, is going to be pretty modest.
I think that's a sentiment we share with a lot of things throughout kind of our cost-benefit analysis of skills and whatever, is that combat is usually short enough that spending a turn or even just an AP doing something that isn't directly doing damage or directly leading to being able to do damage tends to be too much of an opportunity cost versus just shooting or just meleeing.
There are times when bigger fights happen, but you usually want to avoid that. And again, like with the arcane weapons on the Purgator, there are lots of things. None of these skills are so irredeemably awful that I wouldn't say, like, oh, you could do this and this and this with it. You can come up with ideas. You just have to figure out ways to synergize it with something else. Like with the bleed and the immobilize.
Yeah.
There are enemies who, if you immobilize them, are non-threatening. There are going to be situations where having that tool in your toolkit is good, but usually you're better off just sort of designing your squads and equipping them such that you don't really have that situation in the first place.
Yeah.
And you will avoid that situation by doing more damage faster.
Yeah, definitely. So that is to say that there are actually a lot of ways you can make your Apothecary. You can lean into Biomancy, you can lean into the top and bottom utility. I would always recommend at least you make them heal better. You can enhance their melee, and you can enhance their Biomancy through the skull, or you can at least just have more skulls.
I would always take the healing and the servo skulls, and then spend the rest however you feel like it.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation as well. So that's it for our basic classes. We tried to make this as succinct as possible because last time was at least twice as long as this, so I'm glad we got through it. Thank you all for watching, and you know what? I'm just gonna leave this here for next time. I love it. They just keep them in a jar in the ship.
I mean, that's how you keep me cool.
Yeah, right. So thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you in the next proper video.